National Park Service Arrowhead logo, Glacier National Park. Glacier National Park Conservancy logo, a special thanks to our funding partners. Ernie Heavy Runner, Native America Speaks, Blackfeet Heritage Center, July 11th, 2019. Park Ranger Kelly introduces Ernie Heavy Runner in front of a small audience inside of the Blackfeet Heritage Center. The space includes Blackfeet artwork hung up on the wall, as well as dioramas depicting Blackfeet traditional life. Ernie Heavy Runner, the presenter, wears a flat hat and a blue shirt and jeans as he prepares to get ready as Kelly speaks.
Native America Speaks program, and this is the longest running Indigenous speaker series in the National Park Service. We are in our 35th year, and I believe this is the 4th summer we've expanded our programming onto the Blackfeet Nation. So we offer programs here at the Museum of the Plains Indians and also Chewing Blackfelds Campground, which is on Lower St. Mary Lake. And we have 114 programs this year, 17 different presenters, mostly Blackfeet, but we, west of the Continental Divide, the Salish, Kootenai, and the Kalispel tribes, also in the Flathead Reservation, do most of the programming there. And none of these programs would be possible without donations to the Glacier National Park Conservancy. They fund completely every single program that I do, my entire position. And we also have AmeriCorps Vista, Andy David. He's donating a year of his life to basically tribal community engagement. And he just started a month ago. Today. Is it a month today?
All right.
And he's still smiling. And so today we are honored to have one of our Blackfeet tribal elders. His name is Ernie Heavy Runner. And he was born and raised here on the Blackfeet Nation on a ranch just outside of town by his grandmother. And he was taught the culture and everything he knows about the culture by his grandmother. And he was actually raised in a teepee for, tell you were how old were you raised?
I was about, she took me when I was about 11 months old, raised me till I was 9 years old.
Yeah, so that's how he learned the culture. And he then shares his stories and his knowledge with visitors and people of the community. So not only do we offer programs in the summer, but we offer them in the winter time at the museum for all the local school kids. So we actually have hordes. I think the program Ernie did last year, we had 140 kids show up in the museum. It was a little packed, to say the least. So I feel honored that it's also for the community too. And Ernie, he has taught survivalist skills, and he's also a hero to the community because he single-handedly saved the lives of a whole bus full of firefighters. They lost the brakes, and he was able to figure out with another bus driver how to get the bus tipped over rather than going off of a mountain road. And that, what year was that?
1990.
1990. So he has lots of traits to share with you, and so without further ado, I offer you Ernie Heavy Runner.
The audience applauds, and Ranger Kelly walks off of stage. Ernie Heavy Runner tips his hat at the audience before beginning to speak. The camera view then changes to a closer view of Ernie.
How you doing, people? Let me speak, a lot of you heard Spanish, German. I'm going to speak a little American to you, okay? And then I'll translate what I said. Okay, apa mi aplikon. Nisto am skapi pikani. Nitani ko. So koyo mahkan. Ikotrapin ko. Red Morning is another name that I had a friend named that. What I just said was, hello, people from across the water. That's why my ancestors would have addressed you. I'm Blackfeet, and my name is Heavy Runner, and I welcome you. Uh, Before I get started, I'd like to know how many of you live here in Montana? Okay. A lot of you familiar with Indian culture? All right. A lot of you read books about Native American people. So you know that we're still alive and still around. All right.
The camera angle changes to show a wider view of Ernie Heavy Runner. He walks over to the farthest diorama and begins to speak.
Today I'm going to go through some of these dioramas with you. The dioramas were made by an artist by the name of Gordon Monroe, who just died here recently, about 8 months ago. He happened to be a relative of mine. In other words, his grandmother, the one that told him how these people should look, was my aunt. My dad and his grandmother were brother and sister, so I know quite a bit about him. And I know quite a bit about these dioramas. I happened to be there when he was making some of them. So I'll start by explaining what these dioramas are all about. We're going to start with this one here.
Ernie Heavy Runner points to the diorama closest to him. The diorama portrays a burial ceremony.
As you probably can see, it's a burial. There's 3 types of burials known among the Blackfeet people. This happens to be one of them. This is called a prairie burial. Out on the prairie, there's no trees. So they use teepee poles and they build a scaffold. They wrap the body very tightly, rawhide, and they lay it up on a scaffold. The second burial is called a tree burial. Along the rivers where there's trees, they do the same thing. They limb a tree and build a platform in a tree. And they put the body in a tree, wrap the body in rawhide, and they put it in a tree and they just leave it. The third burial, very seldom they used it, but they did use it a lot. Out on the plains, out on the plains, they erect a teepee that's been of no use anymore. It's worn out, has holes in it, it's not livable anymore. They put the teepee up and they built a little bed platform in there, and they laid the body on that bed wrapped in rawhide.
The camera view changes to show a wider angle of Ernie speaking.
And they just leave it. Everything these people used, they took from nature and went back to nature. The bodies were left, they weren't cremated, they were just left for nature to take.
The camera view changes to show a close-up of Ernie speaking.
And that's what this burial is about. But let's talk about this one because this is one we have here. As you can see, there's a body laying up there. And if you notice, there's this person, this deceased person, all his personal effects, all these personal items are laid at the graveside with him, which wasn't very much. These people were nomadic.
The camera view changes to an alternate angle of Ernie Heavy Runner. He points to the diorama of the prairie burial as he speaks.
So they didn't have a whole lot of luxuries to take with them when they traveled. There would be his weapons, a few personal items, a comb, his bow and arrow. His weapons would be laid at his gravesite, and he'd be dressed in his clothes, work clothes, and laid up on a scaffold. Everything would be laid at his gravesite. Now, if you notice, there's a young lady here, that's perhaps his wife. She's cutting her hair. The reason why she's cutting her hair is to show that she's a widow now. She'll go back to camp with short hair, showing she just lost her husband. If you notice, there's a young boy, a young child. That's their child. What happens to these people? All right, let's find out. This woman will go back to her tribe and live with her family for a period of time. She'll begin to look over maybe an older relative, an older sister perhaps, or an older relative. Then she'll pick out either one of them family and move in. She would automatically become the wife of that older relative or older sister, his husband. There was no jealousy. Let me tell you why there was no jealousy. This is survival. This woman has to survive. The child has to survive. Women's work was so hard, believe me. These women worked, no one worked any harder than a woman out on the plains. Their work was so hard, they practically worked themselves to death. So it was always beneficial to have maybe 3 or 4 working women in that family to lighten the workload, because no one worked any harder than these women. They were the hardest working people on the plains. There was no jealousy because they knew at some point in their life this may happen. And the child would also be accepted into that family because the children that were in that family would have a new playmate, so he was welcomed. Now, the man also had it rough, because we just go down to the grocery store and shop for what we need. We can go down and get whatever we want and bring it home and feed our children all they want to eat. But it wasn't like that for the man. This woman may have, or other woman may have 3 or 4 children by her first husband. And she may move in with the older sister that already has maybe 5 or 6 children. So it becomes a large family. That man has to be a heck of a hunter, believe me. If your family went hungry, you're ridiculed by other hunters. So you had to be a heck of a hunter. In order to feed that family, you had to be out all the time hunting, making sure you was bringing in food to feed that family. And you know growing kids can really eat because they're growing. So that man had to be one heck of a hunter. And they were. They were great hunters. They started from an early age. And they hunted all their life. That's all they lived for, was hunting and war. That was a big thing in their life.
The camera view changes to show a different angle of Ernie Heavy Runner, then pans to show an audience member asking a question.
Ernie, you said that it's a very difficult life, and I know it was. So I'm wondering, why did they dispose of all of those tools that he built throughout his life and send them off with the body versus giving them as an inheritance to the children that he left behind?
Because they considered it bad luck if they...
Oh, bad luck.
Yeah, they were very superstitious people. I'll get into that a little later. All right.
The camera view pans away from the audience member back to Ernie Heavy Runner. The angle then changes, and he continues to speak.
So this woman would survive because she'd take on a new husband and a new family. She'd also be a working woman in that family because she's young enough to still be able to work. And I can never say enough about women because of my grandmother who raised me and taught me everything I know. 19th century historians left women, Native women, out of their history books. The only ones you read about, Pocahontas, Sacagawea. The only reason why you read about them is they're associated with white men who kept journals. But my grandmother taught me what I know, and I'd put her up there against any one of those women. No, she'd be right up there on top. These women I have a lot of respect for because they worked very hard. I saw my grandmother work a cowhide, tan a cowhide. My dad had a dead cow, so she wanted to hide, so we took the hide off the cow. And I was 10 years old. And I got down on my knees and helped her a little bit. Believe me, about 2 hours at that elbow rubbing grease, man, that's hard work. I'd sooner dig a fence line across a rocky ridge in a tan high. Well, that's the toughest work I've ever done in my life. But this woman here would be accepted into a new family. She'd become a wife of the husband. Of course, I kind of pitied the husband because he had a new wife and some more kids. They had to pretty much get out there and stay out there till he brought something in to feed them. And that's what this is all about. Okay, let's move over here.
Ernie Heavy Runner walks towards a different diorama. This diorama depicts a dancing scene. He points at it as he speaks.
You're looking at what'll be happening here in Browning in a few hours. It's called dancing. Where did the dance originate? Where did these people learn to dance? Who taught them to dance? Where did the dance come from? All right, that's a good question. Let's answer it this way. Out on the plains, in the spring of the year, these people used to hear a thumping noise.
Ernie Heavy Runner taps his foot on the ground as he speaks.
And they wondered, where's that thumping coming from? What's causing that? So they went out to investigate. And they come up on a scene that was phenomenal. I mean, they were just completely hypnotized by what they saw. They couldn't take their eyes off it. They watched it. This is when all the prairie grouse come together and they form a circle. This is the mating season. This is when the grouse come together to find a mate. And so the male grouse puff out their feathers. Their head feathers stand straight up, their tail feathers expand in a circle. And they beat their wings against their chest. And they do it all simultaneously. This is which causes that thumping noise, and scientists are amazed by what they see out there. And they move their feet very fast, throw their head up and down, side to side, and they move in a circle to try to attack the female. Their feet moving all the time. And they tip their wings, and they beat them against your chest, and their tail feathers stand out. And the people look and they say, what are they doing? They're dancing. That's what they're doing, they're dancing. They come back, they made the drum to get that rhythm sound. And they started chanting songs. And they built headdresses and tail feathers, and they added costumes. And they put style into the movements that they saw those little grouse doing out on the prairie. They added style, and they started dancing. And this is where it originated. That's how the people learned to dance, by watching the grouse during the mating season. And that's where it all began. All right.
The camera angle changes, and then Ernie Heavy Runner walks to a different diorama and begins to speak. He points at it as he talks.
Spirituality. Non-Indian people has always been interested in Native American theology. Who did these people pray to? What were their beliefs?
The camera view changes to show a different angle of Ernie Heavy Runner and the diorama. The diorama depicts a circle of seated individuals with one figure standing holding a bundle. One of the seated figures holds a pipe. Ernie points at it as he speaks, and the camera angle changes back to a closer view.
Who were their gods? These always interested people. They always wanted to know. This is a ceremony of many ceremonies that we have in our culture. This is one of them. This is called a thunderpipe ceremony. Underneath this alkyd is a bundle with a pipe in that bundle, wrapped in that bundle. Bundle of several animal skins, 8 or 9 animal skins, small animal skins. This pipe's called a thunder pipe. The reason why it's called a thunder pipe, every spring of the year, just before the rains come, you hear the loud loud clap of thunder.
Ernie Heavy Runner claps his hands to simulate the sound of thunder.
That's when this pipe is brought out. Now, this pipe has religious significance to it, just like the cross in the church. It's brought out so that people, if there's something that's not going right, maybe there's sickness in their family, or something's not going right in their family, they come to the ceremony to hold a pipe and pray to make things right again. That's what this ceremony is about. This pipe hangs in the back of the teepee in a rawhide bag. And this man here is a holder of pipe. That pipe has been passed down from generation to generation. Now this man has the pipe. All these people you see sitting here are somehow associated with this man and his pipe. Now, they could be family members, but I'm going to say they belong to this man's clan. Each one of these people come here for one purpose, and that's to hold a pipe and pray for whatever's wrong. Whatever they pray for to make it right again. Maybe there's sickness in the family or something not going right in their family, so they want to pray to make it well. That's what this pipe is for. If you notice, there's a buffalo skull. A buffalo skull usually is found at the head of the altar because a buffalo is very sacred to the Native American people. In fact, the buffalo had just everything the people needed to survive out on the plains, everything they needed to survive. That's why this buffalo head is here at the center of the altar. If you notice, there's two men here with hand drums. It's important to understand one thing about this ceremony. And about all the ceremonies among the Blackfeet, there's always songs that go with the ceremony. The reason for this is the songs are part of the ceremony. In fact, I can't think of a ceremony where there isn't songs that's sung in these ceremonies, just like hymns in a church. All the people you see sitting here come here for one purpose, and that's hold a pipe. All right, here's what happens. This man goes back, reaches in the bag, and pulls out the pipe. That's a bundle with animal skins wrapped around it. He reaches down, takes a elk hide, and throws it over the bundle. Then he walks out in front of the people. That's what he's doing right now. And he's praying as he's holding this bundle. He's praying whatever prayers he may be praying for. He's praying that everything's well. That this ceremony goes well without any mistakes. As he's doing this, these two gentlemen are singing a low chanted song. And everybody's praying along with him their own personal prayers, whatever they may be. When he finishes, he kneels down by the altar. One of the women here who's knowledgeable in this ceremony, perhaps his wife or someone who's knowledgeable, will get up and kneel beside him. They'll begin unwrapping the pipe. One animal skin taken off, there's a song and a prayer. Another animal skin taken off, song and a prayer, till all 8 or 9 is removed. Then the woman fills the pipe with a sacred tobacco. This tobacco is sacred because it comes from Mother Earth. Native American people believe that everything that comes from Mother Earth is sacred. The plants, the rocks, the mountains, the trees, the grass, everything that grows, and the animals, especially the animals, because they eat the grass. We live on this earth with the animals. We breathe the same air, we drink the same water. So we call these animals our relatives. Licho Koal in the Blackfeet language means my relatives. So they're important to us, and they're sacred because they also come from Mother Earth. That's why Native American people don't like to see holes dug in the ground. We just take and we don't put nothing back. And so this tobacco that's put in this pipe comes from Mother Earth, so it's sacred tobacco to the people. She fills the pipe bowl with this tobacco, then she lights it up. She hands it to this man. This man takes the tobacco, takes the pipe, takes a puff off the pipe, and he blows smoke in the 6 directions. Native American people have 6 directions: east, west, north, south, down, and up. And he prays, and they're praying, there's songs being sung as this is going on. When he gets done, he hands the pipe to this man. This man does identically the same thing as this man, but he prays his own prayer. There's a song, and there's prayer among the people. He hands it to this man. When he finishes, the man starts the pipe going again. Then he does identically the same thing as these 2 men did. The pipe gradually makes its way around the circle. Everyone gets the pipe except the young child that the woman's holding right there. Everybody gets the pipe and prays with the pipe. The pipe gradually makes its way back. Now, the 3 women that you see in here were very important to this ceremony, because before the ceremony started, they cooked up a big feast, because right after the ceremony, there's going to be a feast and there's going to be socializing. They're going to tell stories and socialize. The pipe gradually makes its way back to the owner. The owner puts the pipe out, and the woman and the man begin to wrap the pipe. The first animal skin wrapped on, there's a song and there's a prayer. The second one, there's a song and there's a prayer. Tell all 7 and 8, or 8 or 9, whichever many is used to wrap this pipe. There's really no, it's usually about 7 or 8, nowhere above 10. Animal skins, small animal skins wrapped around this pipe. Then they put it back in a rawhide bag, set it back up back the teepee. The food is brought out. Everybody feasts. Everybody socializes, and that's what this is all about. Okay? Let's move over here.
Ernie Heavy Runner walks over to a different diorama. The camera pans to follow him.
Another ceremony. You know, Native American people always found animals to be very important to them. Animals played a very important part in the culture of the Plains Indian tribe. Not only the Blackfeet, but most of your Indian tribes found the animal to be very important. Why were they so important to the people? Because they were here first. They were here long before man were. So the people knew that they were here longer than the people. So they began to look to these animals for guidance, because they knew how to live in the natural world better than we did. So we began to watch and learn from these animals because they had so much to offer. See, Native American people believe that animals are one of the most honest creatures in the world. They don't lie to you. They don't rob from the sky. They don't steal from the water. They don't dig holes in Mother Earth. They don't do that. They take only what they need, and they leave the rest for somebody else to use or some other animal to use. But if you go into Russia and you get out of that airspace, they'll say, hey, that's our air. You get back in your own space, that's our air. Or we'll shoot you down. Or you get out of the shipping lanes in China, and they'll tell you, hey, that's our water. You get back in those shipping lanes, or we'll shoot you out of that water. And look what we do. We just dig holes in the mountains. We dig holes in the ground, like the Berkeley Pit and Butte, and we don't put nothing back. We just leave it. We just take and take and take. Animals don't do that. Animals kill because they have to kill. But you pick up the paper, you read the headlines. People kill because they want to kill. Just read the headlines of the paper and it'll tell you that. In New York City, there's a zoo down there where they did an experiment. They fed a pride of lions till their tummies were just full. They were just laying there licking their paws, lounging around letting their food settle. They put a baby fawn in there, and that fawn walked right across their bed ground. They didn't lift a paw to hurt it. If they were hungry, it'd be a different story. But my point is, animals don't kill because they want to kill. They kill because they have to kill. But we kill because we want to. And we hang heads up right on the wall and say, hey, look at that, man, I killed it. I'm a great hunter. That poor animal didn't have a chance with a high-powered scope and a rifle. But you go out there and try to hunt him with a bow and arrow. You have to get within 20 yards to make an accurate kill with a primitive bow. You had to be a hell of a hunter to do that, and we can't do that anymore because we're not connected. And that's what these people were. They looked to these animals because animals give them a lot. Animals taught them how to survive in the natural world.
The camera pans over to reveal the diorama in better detail. Ernie Heavy Runner points at it as he continues speaking. The diorama shows a seated circle of individuals. One figure stands above the others, with red paint on his fingertips.
This ceremony you're looking at is called a horse raiding ceremony. This man is about to go on a horse raid into enemy country.
Ernie Heavy Runner points to the seated man.
And he invited two spiritual leaders with him. One is a woman, one is a man. We call them medicine people. You people call them high priests or priests. This is what my grandmother was, medicine woman. This man here is a medicine man.
Ernie Heavy Runner points to the man who is standing over the other with red paint on his fingertips.
He's praying that this man has success. Now, if you notice his fingers are red, he's putting red paint on this man's face. Again, this red paint comes from Mother Earth, therefore it's sacred paint. He's painting his face. Now, as he's painting his face, he's praying that this paint protects him from his enemies. Because he's going to go out on the word trail to get horses for the tribe. What I mean by that, he's going to go to a different tribe and raid that tribe for their horses to bring back to his tribe these horses. This was a way for men to start a warrior society. This was a way for men to gain status in a tribe is by going on war trail and getting horses and bringing them back to the tribe. This was a way for them to gain status in their tribe, was go on a war trail. If you notice, there's a medicine woman here.
Ernie Heavy Runner points to the various seated figures as he speaks about them.
She's got a blade of sweetgrass in her hand. Now, this sweetgrass comes from Mother Earth, therefore it's sacred. What she's doing, she's getting a hot coal from there, putting it on that sweetgrass and making a smoke that we call a smudge. She'll go around this man's body with a feather, fanning smoke onto his body, called purification ceremony, before he goes out on that horse raid. She's also praying as she's doing this for success, that this man has success. I explained there's always songs that go with her. This man is a singer of these songs that go with this particular ceremony. This woman is also praying. A buffalo skull. I explained why a buffalo skull is found. It's a sacred animal, therefore it's considered sacred and belongs at the head of the altar. Over here you see a young lady. Now that's perhaps his wife. She's here for moral support. If you notice, she's got a young child in her arms, and she's feeding that child. That's the way we fed our children back in those days. Today we just stick a bottle in their mouth, and that's it. There's one person I haven't named yet. If you look real close, you'll see a young boy here. 11 years old. That's how old he is. If you notice his face is painted, that tells you something. That tells you he's already went through the ceremony. He's waiting on this man to finish. And it tells you something else. He's going to go on a raid under the guidance of this man. He's only 11 years old, but he's going to go on a raid into enemy country. If they should get caught, he can die a very terrible death. And the boy may be taken as a slave, captured, or maybe adopted into a family, raised by that family, or he can choose death. Either way, this is very dangerous, people. But that boy is going to go under the guidance of this man. 11 years old, too young? Maybe, maybe not. But we'll find out. In Vietnam, we sent 17 and 18-year-old boys over there to fight a war. They're not men, they're only boys. 17, 18 is still a boy yet. They're not a man till they're 21. But yet we sent them over there to fight a war. Fight alongside a man. Afghanistan was the same. We sent boys over there too, 17, 18 years old, to fight a war. And they did. Maybe not too young for this culture. Okay, what happens? Here's what happens. They have to sneak out of their camp at night. Why? Because there's going to be other young boys, if they hear about us, take me, I want to go, I want to go. Take me, I want to go. This man don't want to take a whole bunch of children, people. Somebody's going to get caught.
The camera pans as Ernie Heavy Runner takes a few steps away from the diorama and continues to speak.
He don't want to come back and say, hey, I just lost your son. He don't want to say that. He don't want that responsibility. Yet he's taking that other boy with him. That's perhaps his nephew or maybe his own son. So he'll take him. They sneak out of their camp at night. They take short ropes, not very long ropes, and they wrap them around their waist. 4 of them, 2 around the waist, 2 over the shoulders. This is to neck the horses together. If they get horses, to keep them from spreading out, the 2 leaders will neck together and the rest will follow. So they take the ropes, 4 ropes with them, and they head out on the war trail. Okay. Now they may be gone for several weeks. They travel at night and they sleep in the daytime. Because like I told you, if this man should get caught, he can die a very terrible death. And of course, the boy taken captive. We don't know what happened to the boy. He may be adopted into tribe, or he may be slave for a while, then adopted. Or he may even choose death his own self than to live with another tribe. So they head out on the war trail. They travel at night and they stay very well hidden in the daytime. Now they may travel several hundred miles away from their camp. Let's say they head east. They travel east for 3 days. On the 4th day, they come across a small Cree village and they check the horse herds that the Crees have. They check them out. And these horses are in poor shape because they had a tough winter in the eastern part of Montana. So they head south. So let's head into the Crow and Cheyenne country. So they travel another 2 weeks and they hit that same thing. Tough winter in Wyoming and southern Montana. And the horses are in poor shape. So they say, no, we don't want these horses. These are Blackfeet. They want to get the best horses they possibly can get. So their tribe will be proud of them. So he tells the boy, we'll head west through the Bitterroots. So they start traveling. Another 3 weeks. Now they've been gone almost 2 months. Summer's almost over with. And they're still gone. The people are worried about them. They hit the Bitterroots, Nez Perce. They hit one of Nez Perce camps. Now look at these horses. Nez Perce had some of the prettiest horses on the plains. I ain't kidding you. They had beautiful spotted ponies. People say Nez Perce learned how to breed horses. Now, I don't know how Plains Indian people learned about breeding horses, but the Nez Perce had some beautiful horses. Real horses. I mean, these horses were beautiful horses. Spotted ponies, Appaloosas. And these people couldn't take their eyes off this horse because they were beautiful horses. So he tells the boy, this is a camp we're going to raid. The horses are in good shape. This is the camp we're going to raid. So they study this camp. They watch who comes in, who goes out, where everybody's at. They do their homework. They have to. They watch his camp for 4 days. On the 4th day, he tells the boy, okay, tonight, I'm going to go down, get this horse. Here's what I want you to do. Now, he's only 11 years old. This is what I want you to do. He gives him a little eagle bone whistle that he's been keeping this for this occasion. He takes this eagle bone whistle, he gives it to him. He said, now, take this whistle. Tonight, when I go down there, and I go into that camp to get those horses, if you see someone come out of that camp, I want you to blow on this whistle like a nightingale. And I'll know. When I hear that, I'll know, and I'll hide, and I'll wait. When danger's over, I want you to blow twice on a light nightingale flying off. Then I'll know it's clear. Now, these boys get these whistles at a very early age. And they listen to the birds out there on the plains. And they take these whistles and they try to mimic them. And they get so good at it that you can't tell the difference between the whistle and the bird. That's how good they get at it. So this man knows that the boy can make these sounds because he probably has a whistle out at his home. He's only 11 years old, but he's already time for him to be a young warrior. So they wait. Now, every evening at dusk, the main horse herd that's been grazing on the plains in Nez Perce are brought into the center of this camp where there's a crowd, makeshift crowd. And they bring the horse in and they leave them there overnight. The next morning, they're herded back out to the main horse herd to graze again. Then, in the evening, they're brought to the center of the camp, brought into the crowd, and left there. Now, they've been studying and watching for 4 days, so they know. And they're very well hidden because they don't want to be discovered. They're very well hidden. So they waited out. The evening of the 4th day, it's getting towards evening. Fires are burning high in camp. 9 o'clock in the evening, the sun's just starting to set behind the mountains. Now, this camp is located in a ravine with a little creek running by it. They're up on a slope looking down where the brush is. They're hiding in the brush there, and they're watching that camp. All of a sudden, the horse herd's brought in. They see 2 riders bringing in the horse herd, bring them into the crowd. These are the main horse herd. These are the horses that the women use to pack the camp and move it from place to place. These are the pack horses that the women use and to haul the Travises. So those are the horses that are brought in. Then the warriors' horse, these are the fast horses. These are the buffalo runners. These are the war ponies. These are the horses that they want. And then there's the children's horses. They're also brought in camp because they're just green horses. They're being broke. They're being trained as buffalo hunters, but they're still green. They're 2- and 3-year-old ponies. In fact, the young boys are breaking them. He probably starting a colt himself at his camp. He's probably already has a colt so he's pretty well a little horseman by now, so he knows how to handle horses. Okay, fires are burning high. It's 9 o'clock in the evening. The man watches. Everybody's doing what they have to do. 9 o'clock in the evening, they're starting to move into their camps, getting ready for bed. 10 o'clock, the fires are still burning high. 11 o'clock, fires are very low. Midnight, there's this cold. Then he wakes up the boy. He said, boy, he said, it's time. I'm going to go down there, and I'm going to get the horses. Now, you're going to be my eyes, and you're going to be my ears. Remember what I told you. If someone comes out of that camp, I want you to blow on that whistle like a nightingale. When I hear that, I'll know to hide. Do you remember that? He says, yeah. Okay. Very quietly, he makes his way down that hill. Very quietly. He stops, he looks, he watches. Make sure nobody comes out of that camp. He's watching, he's looking. Then he moves again. It gets a little closer, and he makes sure that camp's sleeping. And the boy's also up there watching too. He's making sure that no one's coming out of that camp, because he's getting ready. If somebody comes out, he's going to blow that whistle and make a nightingale sound. All of a sudden, the man gets into the crowd. He takes a rope off, and he sees a beautiful horse. He throws his rope around it. He gets another one. Then he leads him out of that crowd very quietly, brings him up to the boy. He tells the boy, now you hold his horse, I'll go down and get 2 more. Very quietly he goes down. The boy's holding these horses. He gets 2 more, and he brings them out of the crowd, very quietly back up. He gives them to the boy. Then he begins to look at the boy, and he's thinking. He's thinking. I used to be a boy once, and I was excited when I went on my first raid. All of a sudden, he tells the boy, do you want to go down there and get a horse? And the boy gets, oh, this is what I come here for. This is my chance. Nobody gets a chance like this. Is my chance. And he's all excited. Oh, yeah. He says, yeah. And the man said, wait a minute. I can hear your heart beating clear over here. If you get down there, your heart's beating so loud, you're going to wake him up. Now, you sit there and calm down. He gives the boy 15 minutes to calm down, because he's sending a boy down there. So he gives him 15 minutes. He wants to make sure that camp is sleeping. He wants to make sure everybody's asleep in that camp. So he studies each one, watching, making sure nobody comes out. Then he comes back to the boy, and he tells the boy, hold your hands out. Boy holds his hands out. Okay, you quit shaking. All right. You go down there and you get 1 horse, and you come back up here. And then we'll get out of here. So the boy looks back at the man. He very quietly, just like the man, he takes 1 step at a time, and he checks the camps. He takes another one. He checks everything out. Finally, he gets up close to the crowd and he makes sure all the camp's okay. Then he ducks into the crowd. And he starts walking among the horses. All of a sudden, he sees a beautiful spotted pony, just the right size for him. Takes a rope off his waist. He walks up to it very quietly, holding his hand out. Throws his rope around it. Then he leads it out. All of a sudden, he sees another one. Now, he's told only to get one, but he can't let this one go. He's got to get it. He just got to have it. So he looks at it, he looks back. The old man's busy watching. So he takes the rope off and he walks over and holds the other one and he throws it around that one. So he's got 2. Now, he's a little horseman, so he's been around horses, so he knows what he's doing. So he gets the 2 together and he starts leading them out of the crowd, backing up, leading them. Like, all of a sudden he sees another one. Oh man, I can't let that one leave it here. I just got to have it, you know. He's getting greedy. And he's looking, oh, how am I going to get the other one? And the guy is up there, why is he taking so long? All he needs to do is get 1 horse and get out there, but he's taking too long. So the boy climbs up on the crown. He gets on one horse. He makes a little halter on him, and he grabs the other one. He holds it, and he starts moving his horse over to the other one. He finally gets close enough. He takes a sort of rope, and he throws it around him and fixes it, and he halts. Now he's leading two of them out there, and he's riding one. And he goes out through the crowd very slow, and the whole herd starts following him. They follow the horse and go out the crowd. And the guy, oh my God, what's he doing? What's he doing? We're going to lose our braids. We're going to lose our braids. What's he doing? He's bringing the whole horse herd. We got to get out of here. He's got the whole. So they very quietly start up the hill, and all the herd is following. Get up there. Now they get a mile away, and boom, they make their way for home as fast as they possibly can, because they know when that camp wakes up, there's going to be no horse in that crowd, and they're going to be wondering what happened. Then they're going to know they've been raided. So they're going to go get their other horses out there, some of the ones that are broke. So they head for home. Now they go all the rest of the night, and part of the next day, then the man says, hey, we got to rest. We got to stop the horses. They got to rest. They got to eat grass and drink water. So let's rest them. So the boy, he tells the boy, now, we're going to rest. We're going to rest for 4 hours. But I want you to go back on the back trail, and I want you to watch back there. If you happen to see some dust, I want you to get back up here as fast as you can. Then we'll get going. Boy says, why? We got all the horses. He said, just get back there. Do what I say. So the boy goes back. All right. They rest the horse 4 hours. Then he calls the boy and they head for home. Okay, they made a successful raid. Here's what happens. Now the people are wondering about him. People are saying, hey, they've been gone 2 months. Winter's coming on. We better send some scouts out and look for him. So they sent scouts out. The scouts go up on a big hill and they watch. They watch the south, towards the south. All of a sudden they see a cloud of dust. The scouts say, hey, look at all that dust. Look at all them horses. It's a war party. We better get down and warn our camp that enemy's coming. One of the scouts said, wait a minute, hold on. There's only 2 riders. That's a whole herd of horses. So the guy looks again. He said, you're right. That's them. They got horses. We better run down and tell the camp that they're coming. They got horses. So they run down and they tell the camp, hey, they're coming. They got a whole horse herd. So everybody runs in their camp. We're going to act surprised when they come. All right, they're coming. All of a sudden, they get a mile away from camp. The man said, oh, hold the horses, mill the horses. So they stop the horse. The boy said, why are we stopping? He said, we're going to show off a little bit. We just made a successful horse raid. We're going to show off. So they get down, they comb their hair. They've been living out there. They've been shaggy, and they've been living out on the plains. And so they're not groomed. So they start combing each other's hair, and they braid their hair really good, and they put on war paint, fresh war paint, and they put on war stripes on the horses they're riding. They said, we're going to show off. We're going to run these horses around the camp and let out war whoops. Okay. So they get the horses within half a mile of camp, and they run them full blast towards the camp. And they run them, let out war whoops, and run them ponies around and around the camp, and everybody comes out and rejoices. Look at the beautiful Nez-Perce pony. They're back. Look at the beautiful horses. Everybody rejoices. They just made a successful horse raid. Here's what happens.
Ernie Heavy Runner walks back towards the diorama and begins to speak. The camera pans to follow him, and Ernie points at the diorama as he continues talking.
This man here is given a new name. His old name is forgotten. He's given a new name. Every time we do something honorable, we're given a new name. That's the way we honor our people, by giving them new names. This young boy, he's only 11 years old, but he went on his first horse raid into enemy country. Not only brought back a horse, but brought back a whole herd of horses along with this man. Now he's given his first down eagle feather, an eagle feather like that. It's his first down eagle feather. Now he could either wear it in his hair, or he could put it on a coup stick. dance and the warriors dance with his feather. He's also given a new name. His old name is forgotten. He's given a new name. And that's what this is all about. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. That's what I'm here for. Okay?
The camera angle changes to show a wide angle of Ernie Heavy Runner speaking in front of the audience. The audience applauds, and then he takes questions. An audience member raises his hand and asks his question.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
Ernie, I was wondering if you could say some more about the dancing. I know that you talked about watching the grouse and learning from the grouse the movements, but what about other types of dancing, like I was thinking jingle or fancy show?
Well, those all came about from the dancing here. People just kind of added style, added new dances along with what they saw. And that's how that came about. But, you know, the thing about everything was taken from nature, our names, you know. Why do you have such unusual names? Why are you named after animals? Well, there wasn't nothing here but animals, you know, in the beginning. The reason why we took the names of animals is because animals taught us so much, you know. That's why when you walk into a Native American art museum, you're not going to see a vase full of flowers, bowl full of fruit, or the ocean washing up against the shore. You're going to see what you see in your pictures of nature, of animals, because they were important to Native American people. And in this way, by taking an animal's name, this is showing honor to that animal. Showing honor, showing respect by saying, hey, you know, you may be dead, but we're going to take your name and carry on, you know. Animal names like Running Eagle, Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse. These are just some of the names. Why do we wear feathers? For the same reason. The birds of prey, the owl, the hawk, the eagle. These feathers we wear in honor of these animals because they show respect to these animals, because these animals taught us so much, you know, taught us a lot about the natural world. And an eagle is a very powerful bird. And Pita in the Blackfeet language means proud. An eagle's proud. You know, he's proud. He's a proud bird because there's no other bird like him. An eagle, we lived with symbols. Symbols were very important to Native American people. I asked a Sioux one time, I said, where did you get the design of the teepee? How did your tribe learn about the teepee? And he said, from a leaf on a tree. He said, where did you Blackfeet learn the design of a teepee? And I said, from the claw marks of a bear on a tree. Each claw mark represented the poles that went around the teepee. My point is, animals taught us the symbols of the natural world. When a young eagle leaves its nest, the people that watched it weren't controlled by time, they were controlled by seasons. So when a young eagle leaves its nest, the first thing it does is flutter around, then it gains altitude. The first thing it does is make a circle. Why does it make a circle? What does a circle mean? The Indians were trying to figure that out. Why did that eagle, why can't he just leave his nest and fly off and hunt? But no, he's got to make a circle. So the Indian people say he's trying to show us something that we can use. So they interpreted that as a cycle of life. We come from Mother Earth, we live our cycle, we go back to Mother Earth. We dance in a circle. Our drums are circular. Our fireplaces are circular. When you get lost in a snowstorm, you wander in a circle. When you take a shower, the water runs down, goes in a circle down the drain. This is the natural order of the universe. The planets revolve around each other in a circle. You learn this in school, the natural order you learn. My people, the old people I talked about in 1800, learned it from the animals. This is a natural order of the universe. Does all animals use a circle? Some of them do. Do you ever notice a dog? Just before he lays down, he makes himself a little place and he walks in a circle and then he flops down. Birds fly from tree to tree, and some of them are circular. A wolf pack, if you had the time and the patience to mark a wolf pack's territory, he'll go over here and he'll mark here and he'll sniff over here and mark here, here, here. But the outer perimeter of a wolf pack's territory is a circle. When you jump an elk, he'll take you on a long straight run. Hunting season may be over with, but he'll gradually make a circle, a complete circle, and come back to where you jumped him. They all use a circle. These certain animals do. This is a natural order of the universe. You learned it in school. My people learned it by an eagle, teaching them the symbol of the circle. Okay, any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
The audience applauds, and Ernie Heavy Runner walks off of the screen. The screen fades to black, and titles are shown. Presented by Ernie Heavy Runner, Kelly Lynch. Filmed and edited by Hannah Schwalbe, Alexander Stilson. Glacier National Park Conservancy logo, a special thanks to our funding partners. National Park Service Arrowhead logo, Glacier National Park.